My heart shattered when my son said, "You've lived enough, now it's our turn." I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was heavy, clinging to my skin. It felt like a storm was brewing, even though the sky was clear. I watched as my son, Leo, a flicker of mischief in his eyes, leaned closer. The words slipped from his mouth like poison. I could hardly breathe. That moment echoed in my head, a refrain that played like a haunting melody. I stood frozen. Leo can't be serious. But the glint in his eyes told me he was. My heart raced, thumping violently against my chest. How did we get here? Just a few weeks ago, we were sharing laughs, throwing popcorn at each other during movie nights. Now, this? His words curled around my throat, tightening like a noose. It felt like everything I had known was crumbling. Leo's 14. Just a boy. But in that instant, he seemed so much older. There was an edge to his stare, something dark and unsettling. My mind raced back to those nights when I'd hear him whispering, as if speaking to someone I couldn't see. I chalked it up to teenage imagination, but now? Now it gnawed at me. The hairs on my neck stood on end. What was going on in that mind of his? Our relationship had always been a tapestry of love, colored with threads of honesty and trust. I had poured my heart into raising him, teaching him the difference between right and wrong. But this? This felt like betrayal. An invisible wound opened up inside me, each heartbeat a reminder that his innocence was slipping through my fingers. I glanced around the living room. The silence was deafening. The walls felt closer, pressing in on me. Each shadow seemed to carry secrets, waiting to be uncovered. My friends, once a chorus of laughter, now faded, their faces blurred. I wondered if I had failed them. Or was it Leo who had lost his way? Why would you say that? My voice trembled, barely above a whisper. Tears welled in my eyes, blurring my vision. I reached out instinctively, hands trembling. I wanted to reach inside his mind, shake him awake, find out what was lurking beneath. But he stood there, defiant, a storm brewing in his heart. The air crackled with tension. I could feel it in every fiber of my being. The clock on the wall ticked louder, each second a reminder of our fraying connection. I was desperate to fix this, but how? A lump formed in my throat, heavy with unspoken fears. Then he spoke again, words that wrapped around me like barbed wire. You don't get it, do you? We're ready. We have to take control. Control? What control? I felt my knees weaken. The ground beneath me seemed to shift. Panic clawed at my insides. I glanced at his friends, lurking just outside, their faces a mix of curiosity and malice. What did they plant in his head? What new world were they shaping? A chill raced down my spine. Was this about rebellion, or was it something darker? In that moment, the silence broke with distant laughter, echoing from a dark corner of the room. My heartbeat quickened. I looked at Leo again, searching for something, anything that would tell me he was still my son. But as I searched his eyes, all I saw was a reflection of the unknown. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed were steeped in a tangible heaviness. Each morning I awoke, my heart weighed down by an unseen anchor tethered to dread. I watched my son retreat more into himself, as if there were a chasm opening between us that I was powerless to bridge. Leo's laughter, once a sweet sound dancing through our home, had fallen silent, leaving a hollow echo that reverberated around the empty halls like a ghost of our past. I fumbled through our daily rituals, desperately trying to recapture the remnants of normalcy. My attempts to engage him, a casual inquiry about school, a half-hearted invitation to go out for snacks, were met with cold responses. He had distanced himself not just from me, but from everything that had once been vibrant in his life. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing him irrevocably. One afternoon, while washing dishes, I caught sight of Leo through the kitchen window. He stood among his friends, their silhouettes framed against the fading light. A part of me longed to call out to him, to draw him back with a sandwich or a simple question about his day. Instead, I gripped the edge of the sink, breath hitching when I noticed the intensity in his gathered group. They were whispering, their heads bent close, conspiratorial glances darting around like a pack of wolves. Before I could think, I hurried outside. "Hey! Leo!" The tone of my voice surprised me, it was laced with urgency. The laughter halted abruptly, and the boys turned to look at me, Leo's expression frozen between annoyance and surprise. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" I pleaded, forcing myself to keep my voice steady as he approached, glancing back at his friends. "What's up?" he responded, the insouciance in his tone a dagger to my heart. "Can we just go inside for a second?" "I just want to talk," I said, fighting the tremor in my hands. He shrugged and followed me, giving a rare greeting to his friends before we vanished into the muted safety of our home. The moment the door clicked shut, I felt the weight of our unspoken words about to drown us both. "Leo, we need to talk about what you said," I started, but he cut me off, his eyes hardening. "I didn't mean it like that." "Then what did you mean?" I pressed, trying to keep calm. "Your words made it sound like you resent me. Like you want to take my place." His face twisted into a mask of defiance, and I felt my composure fray at the edges. "You wouldn't understand," he snapped. "You think you have all the answers. But things are changing. We're growing up. Growing up doesn't mean abandoning your family." I gazed at him, willing him to see the truth of my heart. "Leo, I want to let you go down a path that could hurt you or worse. Maybe hurting you is a part of it." The words erupted from him like a violent storm, leaving both of us breathless. "You don't own me." I stood stunned, every phrase wrapping around my heart, squeezing tighter. "I've tried to guide you, protect you," I whispered, a lump forming in my throat. "And I swear, it's because I love you." But the tempest brewing inside him showed no signs of dissipating. As he stormed away, the shattering of my own resolve mirrored the silence in our home. I felt as if I weren't just losing him, but a piece of myself along with him. Days turned into weeks, and while I fought for my son, little gestures of kindness floated in unexpectedly, threading their way through my benighted state. A neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, stopped by one chilly evening with a homemade casserole, her warm smile a balm against the growing ache of loneliness. "You're doing a great job," she told me, her eyes kind. "Remember, you're not alone." It was a small gesture, yet it spoke of hope, encouraging me to believe that there was still a flicker of light amidst the overhanging clouds. As conditions at home worsened, I decided one evening to send a message to Leo's teacher. Perhaps she had insights I couldn't grasp. As I sat in front of the computer, my hands trembling over the keyboard, the screen flashed with an unexpected notification. An email from Leo. "Hey, can we talk?" I blinked, my pulse racing as astonishment washed over me. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text came through his friend, Alex. "He has been different. Please, help him. Meet us?" The ground felt as if it were falling away. I couldn't take in the implications. What was happening? They were seeking help? I thought about my options, about Leo, and my heart raced with a mix of hope and foreboding. But before I could choose, the sound of gravel crunching outside pulled me back to reality. I peered through the window and saw Leo, not alone, but flanked by his friends, faces illuminated by the glow of a nearby street lamp. They were gathered for something, a meeting of sorts. My heart twisted with fear as I recognized the tension spilling from their small group into the night. Then I noticed something glinting in Alex's hand, a small object. I squinted, and the realization hit me like ice water. A knife? No. This couldn't be happening. Everything inside me screamed to intervene, to reach for my son. But the moment faltered. I felt suspended between two worlds, the love I had for Leo battling the horror of what I was witnessing, and just like that, the ground shifted beneath me once more. The insistent grind of my heartbeat drowned out all rational thought as I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the kitchen window. The gathering outside pulsed with an energy I couldn't understand, a mixture of bravado and fear that seemed to radiate from Leo, the leader of this desperate pack. I remembered the innocent boy who used to build makeshift forts in our living room, laughing and believing the world was safe. Now, here he was, caught in something dark and dangerous, and I felt utterly helpless. I had to act, but how? If I shouted, would it drive him further away? My instinct screamed for me to pull him from the edge of whatever precipice he was on, to anchor him back to safety. But there was no time to formulate a plan. I threw open the door and stepped out into the night. Leo! My voice echoed in the cool air, heavy with resolve. The group turned to look at me, surprise etched across their youthful faces. Leo's expression was a conflicting blend of guilt and defiance. "What the hell are you doing, Mom?" he demanded, shoving his hands deep into his pockets. The underlying plea was still there, drowning beneath the surface of anger. "I came to talk," I replied, my heart racing as desperation swelled within me. I could feel the stares of his friends piercing through my resolve, but this wasn't tea about them. "What's going on, Leo? Please, just tell me." "We don't need your permission," Alex sneered, waving the knife in his hand dismissively. "We're trying to be our own people." The sight of the blade glinting in the dim light made my stomach lurch, a sickening twist that rendered me speechless. My eyes scanned the boys' faces, apprehension rippled beneath their bravado, and I recognized a shared fear. They were in way over their heads, and so was Leo. "You think this is what growing up means?" I reached for my son, pleading with my gaze. "You want to find yourself, but this is not the way. This is a road that leads to nowhere but pain." Leo stepped back, fists clenched, his voice rising, trembling with raw emotion. "You don't understand. You've lived your life. Now it's our turn to decide what we want." My heart hitched painfully at his words, the truth laced with hurt. "It's not about what I want, Leo. You can have your own life without putting yourself in danger. Just like I'm trying to find my way through all of this." My emotions tightened, and I was on the verge of breaking down. "I need you to trust me. You're still my son, and I love you. What if I don't want to be your son anymore?" He shot back, a coldness enveloping his words that made me feel as though he'd just struck me. In that moment, it felt like the air had been sucked from my lungs. "Leo!" I cried, struggling to maintain composure. "Don't say that. You think you don't need me, but what happens when things go wrong? When you feel lost?" But it was clear he was determined to wade deeper into the turbulent waters of adolescence. Just then, a flicker of hesitation passed through him, as if he were at war with himself. I seized the moment. "Look around you," I urged, gesturing to the dim golden glow of the street lamp that illuminated their youthful faces. "Is this really what you want? Is it worth the risk? Talk to me, Leo. Let us find a way back together." But in my heart, I knew I was treading on fragile ground. The knife glinted ominously, and as Leo's friend's grip tightened, my stomach twisted again. It was a moment suspended in time, right before the tipping point. "Let us just go," Leo said finally, his voice quieter but heavy with an unspoken burden. His gaze lingered on me, but fear held him captive, and it was clear that trust was fraying at the seams. As he started to walk away, the urgency I felt compelled me to follow. "Wait. Leo, please," but then, a shout broke through the air, sharp and sudden. A neighbor must have heard us, or maybe someone passing by. "What's going on?" Panic permeated the group, and they scattered like leaves caught in a gust of wind, abandoning their reckless intentions. My heart sank as I watched Leo hesitate, caught between his friends who urged him to leave and his longing for safety in my arms. "Leo!" I called again, fear wrapping its icy fingers around me. "Don't go." But he turned, his face a ghost of the boy I once knew, morphing into the shadows as he slipped away. Just as he vanished from view, I felt a hand grip my shoulder, the weight of it solid and grounding, but unfamiliar. I turned to find Mrs. Thompson at my side, her brow furrowed with concern. "He was with those boys again, wasn't he?" she asked, concern lining her voice. Feeling frail and vulnerable, I nodded. I don't know how to reach him anymore." She squeezed my shoulder gently, her eyes softening with a mother's understanding. "You did your best. Sometimes we just have to trust that love will find a way." But a darkness lingering just out of reach loomed ever closer, and the uncertainty ate at me like a consuming fire. How could I trust love when it felt like everything was unfolding in secret right in front of my eyes? An unexpected prickle of dread crept back in. I turned to lock eyes with Mrs. Thompson, determination surging through me. "We can't stop searching for him, can we?" "Never," she replied firmly, her gaze unwavering. As I stood there, torn between despair and the faint glimmer of hope, I felt the ground shifting again. In the distance, I spotted something glinting under the moonlit night, a flash of silver hidden in the grass where the boys had stood. Curiosity mixed with dread as I stepped closer, and my breath fell short as I bent down. The knife lay there abandoned, a silent messenger of secrets yet to be uncovered. With trembling hands, I picked it up, the weight of it heavy in my grip, and in that moment, I realized, the fight was far from over, and as dark as the path seemed, I needed to shine a light onto what lay ahead. I stood there, fully aware that the cold blade I clutched in my hand was a damning symbol, its metallic surface reflecting the turmoil churning within me. The night felt heavier, as if the world had been drenched in shadows that sought to swallow me whole. Drawing a shaky breath, I gazed up toward the departing figures of Leo and his friends. Each step they took felt like a wound to my heart, a testament to the gulf growing wider between us. "What do you think you're going to do?" Mrs. Thompson's voice broke through the fog clouding my mind. "You can't just stand here. We need to find him before it's too late." I nodded numbly, adrenaline mingling with a torrent of emotions. "But how?" I felt impotent, grappling with a sense of loss that went beyond his absence. It was as if in that moment, I'd not only lost my son but a piece of my own spirit rendered fragile by the rift that had formed between us. "Let us drive around," Mrs. Thompson suggested. There was kindness in her tone, a warmth that wrapped around me like a lifeline. "Maybe we'll spot them." We hurried to her car, and the engine purred to life, a thrilling yet daunting sound against the oppressive quiet of the neighborhood. As we drove through alleyways and by streets dimly lit by flickering bulbs, I strained my eyes, hoping to catch a glimpse of Leo's familiar silhouette. Each passing moment heightened my dread. I feared what might be lingering in the shadows of his new world. "Do you think he'll be okay?" I finally found the courage to ask, my voice barely a whisper, painted with doubt. Her hand reached over and clasped mine, offering comfort. "If there's one thing about kids, it's that they're resilient. They push boundaries, they test limits, but they find their way back, more often than we realize." But a gnawing worry brewed within me. What if Leo didn't find his way back this time? What if this was a path that spiraled downward into darkness he may never escape? What if it was too late? The road began to widen, and I caught sight of a group of teenagers huddled under the flickering streetlight. My heart leapt. Could it be them? Mrs. Thompson slowed down as I leaned over, my hopes twirling like autumn leaves caught in the wind. But it was a group I did not recognize, laughter spilling from their lips, careless and free. Leo's name felt like an incantation that wouldn't take flight. A fresh wave of anxiety crashed over me as we drove past, the surreal feeling of being detached from my own child settling heavily on my chest. Just as I was about to voice my disappointment, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. I pulled it out, eyes widening. The contact was from Leo's phone. "He's calling," I managed to stutter, a mix of hope and dread flooding my system. "Answer it," Mrs. Thompson urged, her voice a gentle nudge forward as she pulled over. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen as I braced myself, fear tightening its grip around my heart. Finally, I clicked accept, and the sound of his voice crackled through the speaker, vibrant and alive yet overlaid with a layer of apprehensive energy. "Mom? Leo?" My heart raced, a desperate surge of emotion causing my voice to break. "Where are you?" Are you okay? There was a brief silence, a pause that felt elongated and pregnant with meaning. I'm fine, he said, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his facade. Just hanging with some friends. Leo, please, come home. I implored, echoes of fear flooding my mind. You don't have to be out there. It's not safe. He scoffed, a mixture of bitterness and exhaustion woven into that single sound. You don't get it. I'm not a kid anymore. I need to figure this stuff out on my own. Figuring it out doesn't mean putting yourself in danger. Can't you see that? If you just give me a chance, I can help. The desperation was spilling out now, raw and uncontained. Help? He laughed, but it was void of amusement. You think this is just about you, Mom? You had your chance at life, and now it's our turn. We're not just kids who need saving. We're becoming. And with that, the line clicked dead, and I was left. Staring at my phone, stomach twisting in anxiety. My heart fell as Mrs. Thompson gently placed her hand on my back. The weight of her concern served as a reminder of how relentless the struggle for my son had become. I'm sure he just needs a moment to think things through, she offered, but her voice lacked the certainty it had before. Tears pricked at my eyes, blurring my vision as waves of helplessness washed over me again. I had tried so hard, but I felt like I was losing my grip on the last remnants of his trust. As if sensing my despair, Mrs. Thompson hastily patted the dashboard. Let us keep going. He can't be too far. Hope struggled to resurface as we continued to navigate through familiar streets. But the crazed thoughts swirling in my mind shadowed any flicker of optimism. How could I combat the demons swirling around Leo? How could I find a way through the darkness that encased him? Just when I thought exhaustion would swallow me, I caught sight of a shimmering neon light through the trees. Wild music spilled out, pulsing into the night air like a heartbeat. The local diner, a place where we spent countless weekends eating fries and sharing stories. Something about it tugged at my memories of Leo, the boy who once went on slushy runs in the dead of winter, shoving me aside for a chance to down an icy drink. Please, let us check there, I urged, heart racing. Mrs. Thompson nodded, maneuvering into the parking lot. As we parked, a sliver of unease coursed through me. What if I didn't find him here? What if he had slipped further away into a reality I could no longer reach? Stepping out of the car, something in my gut tightened. The entrance glowed against the night, and as we approached, I saw clusters of young adults, their laughter bright and uninhibited. But I felt a sense of foreboding settle deep in my bones. I spotted a small group loitering outside, familiar faces drifting in and out of the light. And then, as if time froze, I saw Leo stride across the pavement, a force of chaos flanked by friends who looked all too caught up in something unspeakable. I froze, just a few steps from the door, as a wave of despair washed over me. He was right there, yet so far beyond reach. Just as I opened my mouth to call out to him, laughter erupted like claps of thunder. The clinking of bottles, the palpable sense of rebellion wrapped around them all, and there, in the middle of it all, I saw Leo lift a hand, revealing something in his grip. My breath hitched as dread curdled into panic when I recognized it. It was the knife from earlier. I staggered back, clutching Mrs. Thompson's arm, my heart crashing under the weight of reality. The atmosphere felt suffocating, as if the world had halved between grim shadows and glaring neon lights. I stood paralyzed, my breaths quickening in time with the pounding of my heart. It was nearly impossible to comprehend what I was witnessing. In front of me was the symbol of rebellion I had clung to, now twisted into an emblem of chaos. Leo! I finally managed to call out, my voice wavering under the weight of my fear. But even as the sound escaped my lips, I knew it wasn't enough. The din engulfed my words, lost in a sea of raucous laughter and reckless abandon. With frenetic energy, I pushed through the throngs of youth, the laughter and music making my heart race as anxiety coursed through my veins. Each step I took felt like moving through molasses, the urgency of my mission constricted by the reality that I might be too late. How had we reached this point? How had my son transformed into a figure I hardly recognized? Mom, wait! Mrs. Thompson's hand gripped my arm, an anchor in the storm, but the fear looming before me was too great. I tore away from her, driven by a primal instinct to reach Leo before the darkness could claim him completely. As I neared the group, the laughter subsided momentarily, and I was struck by the emptiness in their eyes, an unsettling juxtaposition against the vibrant night. Leo stood at the center, his posture brimming with bravado, but there it was, the edges of vulnerability that flickered across his face. Leo! I pushed through, desperation tinged with authority. Give me that. I pointed to the knife, as if the act of speaking it into existence would render power over its grip. He turned to me then, eyebrows knit in defiance. What is your problem, Mom? It's just for fun. He tossed the blade in the air, a challenge painted across his features. Fun? You think this is fun? It's dangerous. The reality of my words shattered the awkward silence that followed, eyes drifting toward the flickering knife as it glinted beneath the starlight. The tension in the air felt palpable as his friends exchanged wary glances, drawn in by the raw energy that ricocheted between us. The laughter faded, replaced by the quiet understanding that something significant was at stake. I could see the beautiful boy I had raised struggling against the current of his desperation, fighting a battle far beyond what I could touch. Mom, stop, he finally said, his voice more brittle than I'd ever heard. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Please. I took a tentative step closer, my heart aching with unfulfilled longing. This isn't who you are. You don't need this, it's who I'm becoming. He shouted, and the words erupted from him like molten lava, raw and real. You think you have this figured out, that you can control everything in my life. But you don't get it. I need to find my own way, even if it's messy. And suddenly, the knife fell to the ground, clattering against the pavement, a sound slicing through the tension enveloping us. My heart lurched at the loss of it, knowing this was a pivotal moment, but the gravity of it threatened to crush me. Before I could seize the opportunity to reach out, he turned sharply and shoved his way back through his group, rage painted across his face. Leo, please. I called into the void he had created, anguish constricting my throat. I love you. Don't shut me out. But he didn't. He looked back, he became just another silhouette swallowed by the night, the sense of loss deeper than I had ever imagined. A sharp pain lanced through me. He needed me now more than ever, but he was too consumed by a longing to be free of the very ties that bound him. In that moment, Mrs. Thompson moved silently to stand beside me, gentle and resolute, holding her breath as we stared into the ravaging storm of youth and rebellion before us. Mom? Came a timid voice from the group, a friend of Leo's stepping forward. He's just trying, I don't know, to be who he thinks he needs to be. Her eyes flickered with a reluctant understanding. It's really hard for him. I know. I forced my voice to remain steady even as the world around me swam with despair. I just don't want him to hurt himself. I don't want to lose him. In the midst of my grief, kindness emerged unexpectedly. Another friend stepped forward, a young girl with bright green hair and concern etched in the lines of her face. He just wants to be seen, you know? Like you need to see the real him. I realized then that the journey ahead would be nothing like I had anticipated. If Leo was to find himself amid the chaos, I would have to endure this turmoil with him and confront my own fears. I'm not giving up on him, I muttered, feeling the fire kindle within me, igniting the strength that dwindled. As I turned away from the group, Mrs. Thompson squeezed my shoulder, allowing solace in our shared heartbreak, but the road ahead remained perilous, thick with uncertainty. We hadn't found the resolution I had hoped for, but as I took a deep breath, the realization dawned on me: what would I do if I did find him again, still lost in this darkness? How would I bring him back into the light? Just as we began to walk away, an eerie silence swept over the diner, the laughter hushed by an unsettling current. I caught sight of something glittering on the ground where the knife had fallen, a flicker of silver catching the light: Leo's phone. My heart sank as I bent down to pick it up, already bracing for the implications of whatever awaited me on the screen, and then, as I unlocked the device, the world around me faded. The message that illuminated the screen wreaked havoc on my heart: I can't keep living like this. I'm done. The weight of those words resonated deep within me, each syllable striking like a hammer. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, the air thick with a heaviness that clung to me as I turned to Mrs. Thompson, panic erupting within my soul. "Leo," I gasped, the reality of what lay ahead coiling like a serpent in my chest. What if he means it?" Mrs. Thompson's eyes widened, resolving to something equal parts fear and determination. We had no choice now but to chase the shadows back to their source. With trembling hands and a racing heart, I gripped Leo's phone tightly. We were on a precipice, a moment suspended in time, one flickering second away from something irreversible. I could feel the weight of the past, the questions of where we had gone wrong, but the true realization fell on me with cruel clarity. We were running out of time. I needed to reach him before the shadows claimed him for good. And even as I took my first step back toward that looming diner, dread intermingled with a desperate hope somehow, amid the chaos, I would find the strength to save my son. The streets felt foreign as I retraced my steps back toward the diner, but the path ahead wasn't just a physical journey, it was a descent into the depths of my own heart. Each echoing footfall resonated with memories of laughter we shared, and all I could think about was how quickly it had fled. The laughter, the smiles, the moments filled with connection now, they felt like shadows chasing after a light that had long since dimmed. It was a cruel twist of fate that in the pursuit of freedom, he had collided with despair. Mrs. Thompson walked beside me, her presence a balm against the turmoil swirling in my chest. In her own way, she too understood the fragility of the moment, the precipice upon which we stood, but I sensed a growing unease in her silence. I could only imagine the thoughts flitting through her mind as we approached the diner, the gathering place that had shifted from home to battleground. "Do you think he'll listen if we can find him?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper, the question heavy with unspoken fears. I wished I could share her optimism, but the weight of Leo's words haunted me. "What if he won tea?" I replied, the dread knotting tighter. "What if he really feels that way? It's possible he just needs time. All of this is overwhelming for him, just like it is for you." She paused, searching my eyes. "We need to show him he is not alone in this." Her kindness wrapped around me like a threadbare blanket, but beneath it all, the truth gnawed at my insides. I didn't know how to reach him anymore, and the thought itself felt like surrender. Every moment I took felt like grasping at the tendrils of smoke, a desperate attempt to seize what I could no longer hold. As we neared the diner, I caught sight of a flickering neon sign that cast a pallid glow against the darkening sky. The chill of impending dread settled in my bones. We pushed the door open, the familiar jingle of the bell sounding like a siren warning of the storm that had brewed into this night. Inside, the atmosphere was laden with a tension that draped over me like a thick fog. Patrons nibbled at fries and sipped on sodas, their faces mere blurred outlines in my frantic vision. My heart raced as I scanned the room for Leo's familiar silhouette. The laughter bubbled messily, recalling memories of evenings filled with warmth, yet now it felt forced, a mask over the sorrow creeping in. "Maybe we should check his usual spot," Mrs. Thompson suggested, nodding toward the back booth where Leo often sat with his friends. I nodded, urgency renewing my stride, but when we reached the booth, my heart plummeted. It was empty, a testament to an absence that echoed louder than any spoken word. An icy grip of realization seized me. The other kids were drifting away one by one, each step a quiet admission of defeat echoing in my soul. "Excuse me," I asked a waitress, thinking maybe she had seen him, "have you seen Leo?" Her expression shifted, an instant understanding passing through her eyes. "I think he left with a couple of others, they were pretty fired up." "Where did they go?" I pressed, my hands trembling at my sides. "Out back, I think." The waitress shrugged, unease radiating from her. Without waiting for another moment, I bolted through the kitchen door, the sounds of sizzling oil mingling with my racing heart. I could feel the fear prickling in my veins, urging me onward as I entered the alley. The shadows were alive now, flickering against the dim light as I stepped cautiously into the alley that felt heavier with each breath I took. My heart raced, urging me forward, yet a sense of foreboding settled in my chest. And then, a voice erupted from within the darkness, unmistakable even from afar. "Let him go." The sharpness of Leo's tone cut through me like ice, raw and potent. A flicker of something anguish, defiance, heartbreak tightened my chest as I quickened my step toward the sound. Leo! I called, fear flooding my voice as I rushed forward. Shadows twisted around me until I finally pushed through, the scene unfolding like a nightmare. Leo stood with a couple of his friends, including that green-haired girl, but at the center was something I never expected to witness: a discarded bottle, leaving a shimmering line of liquid glistening on the ground. Leo, what are you doing? I pleaded as the realization struck me like a punch. He was teetering dangerously close to the edge, emotionally and physically, and those shadows were closing in around him. That's not what you should be focusing on, he snapped, anger surging in a wave that pushed against me. You should be looking at how you're ruining everything. Ruining? I gasped, desperation clawing through me. I'm here because I love you. I'm terrified I'll lose you to whatever this is. His friends edged back, tension weaving its way into the air thicker than any storm. I could see the swell of emotion behind his eyes, a tempest locked deep within as they shimmered with vulnerability. Love? He retorted, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. You keep telling me you love me while trying to control everything I do. This is my life. For once, let me take charge. In that moment, everything shifted, the dynamics coiling into a strained silence. My heart pounded heavily in my chest, feeling every facial twitch of anger, confusion, and sorrow reflected in him. The bottle glimmered ominously, a vessel of escape where he sought solace. You talk about loss, he said, voice trembling, but you don't understand what it means for me. You've lived your life and now you want me to live yours? The realization clawed painfully at my heart. I stepped deeper into the shadows, desperate to connect with the boy who stood before me, the one caught in the quicksand of a turmoil I wished to rescue him from, yet I felt the reverberation of his truth cutting deeper than ever. Then who am I, Leo? If you're taking your own path, what does that mean for me? I questioned, a crack forming in my voice. The moment felt suspended, a critical breaking point, a fracture threatening to widen. As he stared into me, searching for an answer, I caught a flicker of humanity, of confusion and pain that mirrored my own. And just then, out of the swirling chaos came the sound of sirens wailing in the distance, creeping closer like the smoke from the fire that was his rebellion. The world outside was closing in, and the weight of what could happen hung heavily in the air between us. Leo, please, I begged, my own tears threatening to spill as fear consumed me, we need to talk together. At that moment, just as the gravity of vulnerability danced in our midst, I felt that distant pull of hope. Perhaps we could navigate this darkness together, if only he would let me in. But as I took a step forward, his hand shot out, and I gasped as that resonating declaration rang out once more, you've lived enough, now it's our turn, and suddenly, with those words swirling like a storm, a heart-wrenching realization washed over me, we were both standing on the edge, teetering between love and loss, and it might shatter us before we could choose which way to fall. The sirens wailed like banshees, their cries mingling with the harsh breaths that escaped my lips as I stood paralyzed by the revelation he laid bare. It echoed through the alley like a trumpet calling forth a battle, each syllable cutting deeper than any blade. Leo's words unraveled my resolve, and suddenly the dive into our shared abyss felt inevitable. What do you mean our turn? I managed to whisper, grounding my disbelief in the hope that maybe he was confused, just lost in this tangled web of emotions. I wanted nothing more than to peel back the layers of his pain, to show him the way back to safe shores where we could laugh again. Leo, we can talk this through now. He interrupted, his voice a mixture of fury and despair. You say you love me, but you keep steering me towards this perfectly crafted life that doesn't even belong to me. I'm suffocating under your expectations. I opened my mouth to retort, to explain how my love was never meant to cage him, but the words became tangled in the mess of my own heart. There I stood, a mother yearning for connection, desperate to shield him from the monsters lurking outside and within. The nature of our bond felt so fragile, as if every word was a touch, a push toward a precipice where shadows danced, whispering the stories of what we could lose. The guilt washed over me like a sudden downpour, each droplet reminding me of the moments when I had pushed too hard or leaned too heavily on my dreams for him. I didn't mean to, it's too late for that. Leo shot back, his pain spilling over, and in that fury, a flicker of vulnerability emerged. His chest heaved with an anguish that mirrored my own. He turned his gaze away, a flicker of something darker crossing his features. You don't understand me. You never did. Leo, please just listen, I began again, desperate for an opening to reach him, but he stepped back, dragging his friends with him, their faces reflecting a blend of uncertainty and loyalty. They looked at me like an outsider in my own story, a wanderer lost at sea, the lines of home blurred in a tempest of anxiety and despair. Yes, I searched his face for any sign of the boy I knew. I grasped painfully at his vulnerability. What had he become that would lead him to seek solace in darkness? Where did this rebellion stem from? It seemed that even the light in his eyes was wilting, and I felt my chest tighten as I battled my rising tide of helplessness. Before any words could escape my lips, another echo crested in the distance, one of laughter rising from inside the diner, a stark contrast to the turmoil outside. It felt like a mockery of our suffering, laughter echoing the very joy we had once shared. I had to do something. I couldn't let this divide swallow us whole. Leo! I yelled, pushing aside the fear in my throat. No matter how far you run, I'm still your mother. You don't have to shoulder this alone. He paused, the fabric of tension tensing against hope. Do you even hear yourself? He shot back, clenching his fists as uncertainty flickered across his face. The internal battle raged, but still, he stood like a statue, rooted yet trembling against the weight of our broken trust. Instead of backing down, I pressed on, forging through the confusion. There's love in this chaos. I love you. I may not have all the answers, but I want to help you find them. Please don't shut me out. With a low hiss of anger, he turned to leave, and as he did, I felt something like panic clutch at my heart. I took a step forward, my voice rising in urgency. Leo, wait. If you leave now, you could miss out on something. Miss out? He whirled around, eyes fierce with emotion. On what? Your perfect vision of my life? Maybe it's a world you've crafted alone, but I want to write my own story. The cold wind whistled through the alley, echoing the profound distance between us. My heart ached under the weight of every unspoken word, every recollection draped in heartache. And suddenly, his friend stepped back, leaving us engulfed in silence, their eyes flickering between me and Leo, uncertain of how to navigate this storm. And then, a glimmer of unexpected kindness erupted from behind. An old man appeared at the mouth of the alleyway, a frail figure carrying a small bundle under his arm. Hey there, youngsters, he called with a voice laced in a warmth that felt out of place against our emotional tempest. Don't let the night swallow you whole. Leo turned, puzzled by the intrusion, the harshness around us softening slightly at the very sight of this stranger. Who are you? Leo asked, brows furrowing. I'm just a man who has walked a long road, he replied, adjusting his grip on the bundle. I know the darkness can be cruel, but there's still light out there if you're willing to look for it. As he drew nearer, I could see strings of laughter escaping his lips, memories wrapped in tenderness spilling over as he revealed what he carried: a box of fresh pastries from the diner. Thought I'd bring a treat to share with the night's stars. Care to join me? For a heartbeat, the heaviness hung suspended. Something in the old man's kindness stirred a flicker of hope in me. Leo's fierce facade wavered momentarily, and I could sense the conflict boiling beneath his skin. Why would you care? Leo muttered, glancing at the man as though he were an enigma. The elderly man simply shrugged, offering a muffin wrapped in a paper towel like it was the secret to happiness. Love is messy, kiddo. You'll find your own way, and it may not look like what others see, but it's yours for the taking, nonetheless. An unexpected swell of emotion rushed through me, illuminating the shadows of despair. Here was a stranger, offering simple kindness amid chaos, and yet the question hung in the air: could we embrace that kindness when the world threatened to drown us? Before I could dissipate the moment with fear, a new urgency gripped me. Leo glanced between the man and me, his expression torn, cheeks flooding with heat. Just as I opened my mouth to speak again, to pull him back into the safety of warmth, I caught the sound of sirens bursting through the corners of the alley, closer than before, and it sent a shiver of impending reality down my spine. Leo, please. I whispered, reaching out as his gaze flickered toward the distance. We can choose love, but we have to take that leap together. Don't let this moment slip. But just as hope flared in his eyes, shadows suddenly pulled tighter around us, and the wail of desperation twisted the air. The siren-esque cry rang out sharply, cutting through the fragile bonds we had forged. In that moment, as we stood on the razor's edge between love and loss, a realization dripped heavy from our eyes like rain. Sometimes, the light is hidden in the places we fear to look. And as Leo stepped back, torn between the comfort of moving forward and the desire to claw free of the darkness, he uttered a final line, a declaration that shattered my heart into fragments. Maybe it's time to let go of what you think I should be and allow me to decide, even if it breaks us both. As those words tumbled through the air, I felt the ground shake beneath me. My world, which had seemed so solid, now hovered with uncertainty, leaving my heart dangling by a thread, grasping for the boy I feared I was about to lose forever. The cold air held its breath, a mesh of unspent words and bruised emotions swirling around us. The siren's wail faded momentarily, yet the silence that followed felt more oppressive, like the quiet before a storm. My heart echoed with a familiar pain, the sharp absence of the tender bond one had always cherished with Leo. He just stood there, transfixed by the gravity of his own words. I felt the tether between us thin, fraying like old rope worn down by years of tumult, each strand of battle fought, a moment lost. I was losing him, and despair clawed at my throat. The old man, seemingly unperturbed by the tension, stepped closer. A journey is not only about the destination, my boy. Sometimes it's the winding paths we take that define who we are. His words resonated in the silence, offering a semblance of solace, yet it did little to ease the impending storm. Is that what you want? Leo asked sharply, eyes ablaze with a mix of rebellion and vulnerability. To limit me to the paths you set out? No, Leo. I want to protect you. I couldn't help but interject, my voice a desperate plea that danced on the edge of a cliff. I've seen the world break people, swallow them whole. Please understand that my intentions, however misguided, come from a place of love. But it doesn't matter. He shouted back, frustration surging like a wildfire. The old man cleared his throat, casting a calming influence over the charged air. Let me ask you this, what is love, if not the freedom to forge one's own path? To discover who you are, even if it defies the expectations set by others? I don't know if I can handle this. The words burst from Leo, and I flinched as he stepped further away, his back to me, the distance widening like an insurmountable chasm. The old man, sensing the turmoil, delicately placed a hand on Leo's shoulder. Son, listen. The journey ahead will be filled with struggle, laughter, heartbreak, and joy, and it's up to you to navigate it. Accept the wisdom of those who care for you, but always maintain your unique compass. These winds of change can lead you to the stars, but you have to steer your own ship. Overwhelmed by the man's kindness, I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. Could we really allow ourselves that freedom? And then I remembered the laughter from the diner, a sound that felt both alien and achingly familiar. It's okay to seek joy even in this chaos, I dared to say, my heart unfolding like a fragile bloom amidst thorns. Joy is easy to find when the path is smooth. Leo's voice was taut with bitterness. It's when things get tough that you see who really stands by you, he finished quietly, a hint of vulnerability creeping in. I took a shuddering breath, realizing that there was a fissure between us. He might still be coming to terms with his own feelings, a journey I knew all too well. Leo, please don't think that my love is conditional. I want you to explore, to seek happiness, but I am terrified of your fall into darkness. You are everything to me. His expression deflated, and for a moment, I thought I saw the boy I had raised. He looked back at me, the barriers lowering just a fraction. Perhaps, amid repetition of our pain, a corner was turned. What if the darkness isn't just out there? He asked quietly. Then we'll battle it together, I vowed desperately, though each assertion felt like grasping at shadows. Whatever storm comes, let us seek refuge in one another. You don't have to be alone in this. As hope flickered between us, the moment was abruptly interrupted by the glittering laughter spilling out from the diner, like a siren song meant to call him back to warmth. It was infectious, joyous, yet each laugh felt like a reminder of threats lurking within our own home. I could see from the corner of my eye how his resolve wavered. For a fleeting moment, I glimpsed him standing at a crossroads, torn between safety and an uncertain future, and then it happened to crack in the night. Leo tilted his head ever so slightly toward the sound, a war waging behind those familiar eyes. "You say it's okay to seek joy," he breathed, almost to himself. "What if that joy requires me to fully embrace my own choices, even if it means letting go of you?" The room around us felt suffocating, and I struggled to catch my breath, fighting the tension that threatened to consume me. Every instinct screamed at me to pull him back towards safety, towards love's embrace, yet I also understood that clinging too tightly could do more damage than good. My heart felt heavy with knowledge of the abyss that awaited him, but I couldn't anchor him down with fear alone. "Leo," I began, but the words dissolved in the whirlpool of surrender fluttering within me. If he chose to fly towards that joy, where would it leave us? Without warning, as if the universe was responding to our turmoil, a new sound pierced through the serenity, a dance of chaos, as police sirens rose to an ominous crescendo again. They weren't far now, their flashing lights bouncing off the walls, a stark reminder that our moment of vulnerability could slip away, shattered. "Leo, you have to decide," I pleaded, desperation surfacing in my tone as my gut twisted in anticipation. For a fraction of a second, as the realization of impending chaos swept in, I saw fear turn to clarity in his eyes. He stepped toward me, uncertainty warring against the weight of his aspirations. But I felt the world tremble, as if even the ground questioned our choices. "Mom," he inhaled deeply, words hanging in the air like a thread waiting to be severed, and then just as I readied myself for whatever revelation he would offer his friends, drawn back like moths to a flame, erupted in laughter once more. Their joy fell like a beautiful curse around us, wrapping Leo in the familiar warmth that called him home. As I swallowed against the knot in my throat, the sirens closed in, and his friends surged forward, beckoning him away from me, laughter erupting like a veil between our fragile words. The rhythm of their joy acted as a siren call that beckoned at his heart, completely oblivious to the darkness entwining with our fear. With that, as I watched Leo's resolve slip behind the shadow of his friends, uncertainty hung thick in the air. The moment we had fought for was eroded by the weight of laughter, far too resonant against the desperate calls of approaching sirens. Standing alone in the alley, I felt the world close around me, adrenaline shooting through my veins as indescribable dread coiled around my heart. The chasm between us widened while a wave of painful clarity washed over me. Sometimes love meant letting go of expectations, dreams, and the risk that it might break us both, and in that haunting echo, he turned away, flanked by shadows and laughter, uncertainty looming large, leaving my heart bruised, begging for him to find the light before it drowned us both. The sirens faded into the distance like wailing memories, their echoes entwining with the laughter of Leo's friends, now reminders of the warmth I had yearned to share with him. I stood in the alley, feeling the weight of the silence crushing against my chest, all too aware of the unyielding distance that had settled between us. I had always feared this time would come, yet facing it felt like staring into an abyss with no path visible. Fighting back tears, I turned from the alley, pushing against the swell of darkness threatening to engulf me. I walked aimlessly through the streets, the cobblestones beneath my feet slick with the evening dew, each step a reminder of how far I had fallen from the bond we once shared. The city lights flickered, illuminating the stark contrasts that mirrored my emotions, beauty intertwined with shadows, laughter ringing hollow amid heartbreak. Yet, just as I was overwhelmed by the painful solitude, a small voice broke through the stillness. A young girl, no more than 6, peered out from a doorway with wide, curious eyes. "Are you okay, lady?" she asked, genuine concern plastered across her tiny face. Her innocent inquiry, so uncomplicated amidst my turmoil, caught me off guard. I paused, crouching to meet her gaze, forced to muster a smile. "I'm just a little sad, honey." "But you're so brave. What's your name?" "Lila," she exclaimed, her small hands clasped excitedly in front of her. "Can I help you feel better?" Laughter erupted within me, not the kind that had filled the diner, but the kind that trickled up from a place buried beneath hurt. "You're already helping, Lila." "Thank you." With a beaming smile, Lila reached out, her fingers brushing against mine. The simple warmth of her touch reignited flickers of hope in the pit of my chest, reminding me that compassion lingered even in the darkest corners of the world. Perhaps love could come from unexpected places, weaving its way through the heartache and guiding us back toward each other. She began to tell me about her favorite flowers and how they grew in her mother's garden, and as I listened, her gleeful tales began to stitch together the fragments of my broken heart. Each word felt like a droplet of sunlight breaking through the clouds, one that momentarily chased away the shadows clinging to my mind. It was just enough to allow me to breathe deeply, to search for meaning beyond the grief. But just as the warmth spread through me, I felt a familiar pang twist through my gut. I thought about Leo, the choices before him, how he was poised at the edge of an uncertain future. Would he see the same light Lila had inadvertently shown me? Or had I failed him catastrophically in my desperate attempts to shield him? Lila, I said, kneeling closer to her, do you believe in magic? Of course. There's magic all around us, she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling like stars. You just have to look very closely. As she spoke, I felt my heart tugging with new resolve, igniting a flame I thought had been extinguished. She was right. Perhaps the magic lay in our ability to connect, to show up even when darkness threatened to overshadow the light. My love for Leo didn't exist solely as protection, it was a path illuminated by our shared experiences, our trials, and our attempts at understanding. With newfound conviction, I thanked Lila and embraced her in a gentle hug. You're brave, you know that? Just remember, always let your light shine, I whispered, treasuring her effervescent spirit. I will. She shouted, a heartwarming laugh echoing through the alley before dashing back into her home. Alone again but warmed by her presence, I stepped back into the streets, determined to reclaim the love I feared was lost. I couldn't merely stand by and let Leo drift into a darkness without fighting for him. He needed to know that even in pursuing his own path, he would never walk it alone. But as I turned the corner, ready to fight against the tide, the town square filled with voices shouting an unexpected announcement. The media had gathered, a fledgling crowd clamoring for attention. A local news report blared from the loudspeakers. A group of teenagers has gone missing from the nearby youth center, it stated. Authorities urge families to check in with their children. An ice-cold grip wrapped around my heart, dread pooling in my stomach. Time seemed to slow as I turned toward the crowd. Was Leo there? Had he fallen in with friends who wandered too far? Without awareness of the dangers looming in the shadows, my heart raced faster than my thoughts could catch up. Would he be swept away from me entirely, lost like those reported? Panic surged as I imagined the worst. Every corner of the city might hold the shadows that sought to claim him. The very place where I had hoped to restore the connection between us might now become the crucible where my fears shattered what was left of our fragile bond. Desperate to find him, I shoved through the crowd, knees trembling from a mix of terror and determination. Each plea for safety felt like a prayer, a silent affirmation that all hope wasn't yet lost. And then I heard it, a voice familiar yet distant among the cacophony. It pierced the heavy veil of anxiety, sending a jolt through me, urging me to turn and run in the direction from which it had come. Mom. What did you say? It was Leo, only it was not the same fire that had once burned brightly behind his words. No, this felt deeper and darker, and a chill climbed my spine, urging me to rush toward him. But deep within, a horrific realization settled like ice in my veins. What awaited me might shatter whatever hope had begun to rise amid my heartache. Was it too late to bridge the distance between us, or would this divergence tear us irrevocably apart? As I pushed through the throngs of people splintering around me, a dreadfully familiar query pulsed in the back of my mind. When love felt inevitable, could it also be perilous? And as I drew closer to the source of Leo's voice, heart racing, I couldn't shake the sense that all my efforts to protect him had come too late. In that moment, uncertainty loomed larger than ever, leaving me to wonder how much longer I could hold on to the hope of a future together without the specter of darkness swallowing us whole. As I neared, shadows loomed before my eyes, carrying the weight of questions left unanswered, just waiting to unfold. The air felt electric, heavy with an agonizing anticipation as I raced through the crowd, a kaleidoscope of faces blurring together into an indistinct mass. The sirens were no longer distant, they were here, threatening to shatter the fragile peace I had been clinging to. Each heartbeat thundered in my ears, drowning out everything but the desperate hope to reach my son. With every hurried step, I recounted the journey that led us to this moment. Every piece of laughter we had shared, every whisper of encouragement, felt stifled beneath the weight of 1,000 unspoken fears. Would I find Leo lost beneath the layers of emotional chaos, or had the darkness already claimed him? Leo. My voice broke through the cacophony, reaching out into the fray as if it was a lifeline. Where are you? I felt the instinct to call him again trembling in my throat, but the fear of what lay ahead made it nearly impossible to push the words out. Instead, I pressed on, guilt crashing over me like waves because of my own failures to understand him. The crowd began to thin as I approached the edge of the square, and there, on the fringes, I spotted him. He was nestled within a small circle of his friends, their expressions clouded with a mixture of anxiety and determination. For a moment, my heart leaped, relieved to see him, but the looming shadows quickly snatched the joy from me. Leo. I called again, my voice spilling over with urgency. He looked up, those eyes that once radiated warmth now flickered with uncertainty, a tempest battling behind them. Every footfall felt like a chance at redemption. I could close the distance and pull him into a safe embrace if only he'd let me. Mom, don't. He shouted, throwing his hands in the air as if to keep me at bay. The defensive gesture felt like a blade slicing open the delicate fabric that had connected us. You can't just come in, and Leo, I'm here for you. I pleaded, desperation wrapping around my words like a vine squeezing tight. Please, just talk to me. The weight of my voice seemed to suspend time, fragile and raw. I saw him hesitating, and beneath all the bravado, he was wavering. The mask began to crack, and I could almost glimpse the little boy I had raised, the one who had run to me with scraped knees and the brightest of smiles. But just as uncertainty gripped him again, his friends urged him with hushed whispers, reminding him of the risks that lurked just outside his admission. The boundary between us felt palpable, a taut wire stretched across a chasm of sorrow. Leo stood at the precipice, and every fiber of my being screamed for him to come back to me. I can't keep running, Mom. He flared with frustration, but uncertainty intermingled with pain, creating a cyclone that carried me right back to the moment he had first folded into himself. I want to figure this out on my own. Don't you get it? The word struck me like a physical blow, but I didn't recoil. I understand, I managed to whisper, tears welling in my eyes as I recognized the struggle for identity that consumed him. But it doesn't have to be alone, you don't have to walk this path without me. His gaze faltered, the glow in his eyes dimming. For a fleeting moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back together. Then, a voice broke through the tension, the very sound catching us both off guard. The cops are looking for you. One of his friends shouted, their voice trembling. Suddenly, the weight of impending microcosmic upheaval crashed down upon us. You need to leave. Now. That single statement seemed to shatter the moment like glass. It sent Leo's friends into a flurry, each face revealing a shadow of fear that hovered above us. Uncertainty spurred an instinctual response within me, as I stepped forward. You don't have to run. But it was too late. In an instant, Leo's attention whipped back to his friends, and just as swiftly he turned away from me, engulfed by the cloud of anxiety that propelled him into the night. My heart dropped, grief clenching at my chest as I shouted, no. Leo. But he was already swept away. Caught up in the current of adrenaline, his feet taking flight like a startled bird escaping the storm. Desperation clawed at me as I stood frozen, an anchor in an ocean of turmoil. He doesn't understand the danger. I gasped, dread coiling tighter. Mom, we need to go. One of his friends tugged at my arm, urgency lacing their tone. They'll be here any second. Panic erupted within me, and before fully processing the gravity of the situation, I followed his friends into the frantic swell that scuttled life into the shadows. The lingering warmth of sunlight faded, leaving only a tantalizing glimmer of hope behind. Just as we turned down a side street, Leo's laughter echoed in the distance, the playful notes drifting toward me like a tender caress. I felt my heart lurch painfully. Each sound resonated with both nostalgia and longing. I sprinted after them, tears streaming down my cheeks as I desperately called his name, clinging to the possibility of restoration. Leo! Please, don't leave. And yet, just as I rounded the corner, time seemed to stretch as the entire world slid into slow motion. A flash of fluorescent blue and red lights illuminated the dimness, a sudden whirlpool dragging my heart into dark fear. There it was, my son, trapped in the chaos of youthful rebellion, his friends surrounding him like a wall of defiance, but ultimately overshadowed by the looming presence of the police approaching. The world had come crashing down, there was no escaping it now. Leo! I screamed, pushing forward as adrenaline surged through my veins. Stop! Everything shifted in that moment, a breath hung suspended in the air. Leo froze, caught in my frantic gaze like a moth drawn to a flame. I saw the conflict stirring within him, the battle between the need to break free and the urge to return. And then, it happened, a moment of clarity, a jolt of recognition that swept through him. Just as the weight of realization enveloped us, I saw his shoulders slump, and dismay washed over his features. I'm scared, Mom. The admission broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. It was the smallest whisper, yet it echoed loud and clear in the heavy silence that fell around us. Me too, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper, filled with a burdened understanding. But you don't have to be scared alone. The officers paused, their expressions softening as they surveyed the scene before them. It was as if, for a fleeting second, the weight of our shared experience wrapped around us like a warm embrace, and I watched with bated breath as Leo stepped hesitantly toward me, drawn back into my orbit. I don't know what I'm doing, he uttered, shame shadowing his gaze. No one does. I reached out, the bridge between our hearts slowly reclaiming its place. But we'll figure it out together. I promise. In that instant, the magnitude of our emotional conflict, rather than overwhelming us, transformed into an unparalleled bond, a connection grounded not only in love but also in the appreciation of vulnerability. And as the blue and red lights pulsed rhythmically behind us, a siren's wail faded into the distance, replaced by the sound of laughter spilling forth from the diner, a bittersweet reminder of all we had come from. Can we go home? Leo asked quietly, the tentative hope lacing his voice as he stepped closer, ready to accept my hand. Yes. I vowed, a swell of warmth enveloping me like a long-desired return. We're going to find our way back, together. As we turned away from the shadows and stepped into the light, I understood that love was never about control. It was about journeying together, embracing the chaos that life offered, and fiercely holding on to the roots that connected us even amid brokenness. And in the fragile yet steadfast embrace of dark and light, I finally came to terms with the powerful truth: no matter the storm, I would always be there, steadfast beneath the weight of trust, chasing away the shadows for both of us. As we walked home, I felt a flicker of hope igniting deep within my chest, remembering Lila's laughter, all the magic surrounding us, and I knew that together, we would build something beautiful from the ashes of fear. And as Leo turned to me, a tentative smile breaking through his fears, I finally understood that even in life's darkest moments, we had the magic to create light our own way, together. The night was still long, but for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed we would find our way again. And that realization shimmered faintly in the depths of my heart, echoing the most powerful truth: sometimes, hope is just a breath away from home.